I note that all the women that confessed to having a threesome in the previous episode were eliminated tonight. It seems that Bear can barely cope with one woman, let alone two, so that must have been why he selected them to go. Now, yesterday's episode ended in a bit of a cliffhanger. We saw part of the rose ceremony where it was announced that 5 of the women were going to be eliminated. Kim and Janet both got roses, and Sunny already had one. And then Terry was offered a red rose, and she responded, "I've thought long and hard, and I'm not going to accept the rose. It's been nice getting to know you. So, as we used to say in grade 5, you're dropped." But it was interesting how he followed her out, and they had a bit of a kiss and a hug, and they had a quiet conversation, and she diplomatically said, "It's me, not you." And I noted that he doesn't give this type of closure to the women that he eliminates. They get a quick peck on the cheek or the lips, and then bang, sayonara, they're out of the mansion. Now, some of the women wept when Terry left, but Jan and Catherine were clear-eyed as they know now that their odds of staying in the competition had just improved. Lauren got a rose, as did Catherine, Jan and Gira. Bianca, Pip, no surprise that she was eliminated. I don't even think Bear had a conversation with her. Shimster and Elizot were the ones that were leaving the mansion. Noting, Bianca, when she was leaving, told Bear, "At least I can take the Spanx off now." Now, I'm convinced that Spanx is sponsoring this season because it's been mentioned a few times, but I'm equally convinced Spanx marketing team are regretting it every time someone complains about how uncomfortable they are. Bear turns up to the mansion with a hamper for a pamper day. Unfortunately, they're not being whisked off to a fancy day spa, but it's a bit more DIY. Lauren turned the sultry on, telling him that he should do a full body massage for all the women, leaving him in no doubt that when she says full body massage, she means full body. Bear was being the masseuse, massaging Jan's feet and then massaging Sunny's shoulders, which then had her emulating that scene from Harry Met Sally. Then it was his turn to be pampered by the women, and they all stood over him and waxed part of his legs. He was surprisingly not happy about it, and if it was meant to be a comedy scene, I don't think it really worked, as most of the women must have been feeling like idiots doing it. There were a few times tonight when I thought the women were containing their eye rolls. There was also a few times tonight when I thought Bear was dialing it in. Now, it was Kim that got picked for the solo date, and apparently it's because they are widows and they've got some sort of connection. They went to a closed restaurant, and in the kitchen, Bear cooked her mac and cheese. Kim, who looks like she's, sticks to a very straight protein and salad diet, gushed gratefully, looking at him like he'd cooked her truffle risotto. Now, Kim was taking any crumb he was throwing at her and then overinflating it in her mind about how much of a connection and spark they have. At one point she said, "He was grabbing my hand," when in fact the camera showed her clutching his hand so hard it was a wonder she didn't break any bones. She was also trying to convince Bear that they were great by telling him they were like a perfect pair and the chills were multiplying between us. "Don't you think so?" she'd ask him, and Bear just nodded his head. She looks infatuated and scarily so. She gave a big hint that she was down for some horizontal folk dancing with her Netflix and chill story, saying she had not known what it meant until recently. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Bear, of course, pretended he had no idea what she meant, and he looked more and more like a trapped rat. She was telling him also about her current situation, which she said was a bit lonely, which is also always an aphrodisiac when you're on a date, when someone tells you that. "You're 60 years old and you don't have any friends," is always my question that I ask. As she was down for it, she leant in, so he had no choice but to kiss her back, but he was not an enthusiastic participant. Kim then said to camera, "I think there is a spark." I'm like, Kim, 1.5 million viewers who watched this date could see that he was not that into her. It was then time to get back to the mansion, and when Sam Armitage walked in, the bachelorettes looked at her like they know that she's their main competition. This time everyone was getting a one-on-one time with Bear as they watched videos from loved ones. Janet was first up to see her grandkid. Bear gushed that she comes from a tight, caring, loving family, and that's what I'm looking for, clearly forgetting that he'd moved halfway across the other side of the world from his family. Janet was another one who appeared to not have friends. She said, "I don't want to go through the rest of my life on my own. it would be nice to have someone to do things with. Now, Bear does seem to like Sunny. He enthusiastically hugged her after her family reel, and Sunny smartly always manages to get to sit next to him. Lauren, when she was going to watch her video, was worried about who was going to turn up for her, and it was her sister, and you could and could not see the family resemblance. The sister made a passag comment to Lauren about you're getting to be a princess to a prince, and her horse also made a cameo, as did Gira's cats. Then it was Bear's turn, and yet again Audrey, his dead wife, made an appearance in photos and videos, lest we forget. All the girls got teary except for Catherine, who was clearly thinking, not this shit again. Bear also said to camera, 14 years since she passed, and it never stops hurting. You learn to live with it. And I'm really starting to think, why did the producers put this man on the show when the main competition for the Bachelorettes is a ghost that they can't compete with? Anyway, it was time for another rose ceremony, and this time 2 of them were going to be eliminated. Jan looked like she was heading to the guillotine. Sunny had put on a short-haired wig, which gave her a hyacinth bucket or bouquet sort of vibe. Also, I don't expect to see that pearl necklace that Bear gave her again, as I suspect that went straight back to the shop due to its value, because I Googled. Lauren said that Bear had taught her to raise the bar, and I did think, where the hell is her bar currently set? Has she become a pen pal for prisoners? So it was no surprise that Lauren and my side glute is my best feature, Catherine, were eliminated. And the show did get a little bit more boring, as these two did bring the drama, playing low-level villains with their I'll get Bear anyway possible shtick. Anyway, who do you think's going to win? I'm starting to think it has to be Sunny, or possibly Janet.